passionate instigator and dynamic problem solver, Dr. Kevin Ross Emery, the host of the Dr. Kevin Radio Show, will be taking you outside the box, behind the curtain, and identifying the load of BS we are fed every day. And now, Dr. Kevin.
Hello, 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 and welcome to the Dr. Kevin Show here on Ohm Times, where we're changing the world one ohm at a time. And I am hoping that today's guest, I'm reaching out to her right now, I'm hoping that she's actually going to be responding, and we'll be calling in at any minute, but we're going to keep the show going whether she shows up or not, because that's what we do here on the Dr. Kevin Show. We keep things moving no matter what happens. So first of all, I do want to remind people that we are a live call-in show, so feel free to call in and join the conversation. The number to call in is 202-570-7057. 202-570-7057. And we're going to start also by letting you know that you can be part of the conversation through Facebook. You can call into facebook.com/MyDrKevin, MyDrKevin. My Dr. Kevin, and be part of the conversation by posting on tonight's timeline. If tonight's guest shows up and you have questions for her, you can post them there if you don't want to call in. If you do want to call in, again, 202-570-7057, or you can come to facebook.com/MyDrKevin. And if you are listening to this on a day other than Thursday from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, feel free to still post on the Facebook page. Make sure that when you're on the page posting that you like me, because I'm a likable guy. And I or tonight's guest, if we have a tonight's guest, will actually get back to you. And we will post on the timeline. So if you can't be part of the live conversation, it doesn't mean you can't be part of the conversation. So, there are a lot of things going on these days. And as always, I am going to do my best to share with you, give you some spiritual insights, answer questions that you have. Even questions about, like, what's going on and how do we deal with it? Because there seems to be a lot of things going on in the world today. But as always, I'm going to start with my hot topic. For those of you who don't know or are just joining us for the first time, my hot topic is always something that either makes me feel warm and fuzzy and warms the cockles of my heart, or it gets me hot under the collar. I've been trying to really focus on getting more warm and fuzzies because I think there's enough stuff going on out these days to get people hot under the collar. So I found a story that I wanted to share and it's happening in California. And it's one I got off, this one came from People magazine. And its customers buy out California donor shop each morning so the owner can be with his sick wife. For nearly 30 years, John and Stella Chachan, Chhan, has stood side by side behind the counter at Donut City Shop in Seal Beach, California. But in recent weeks, faithful customers began to notice Stella hasn't been around. They learned that she had suffered from an aneurysm and was undergoing rehab. John, who still needs the money for the business, was working at the shop every day, and as soon as he could close the shop, he would go spend the rest of the day helping his wife through rehab. First of all, we love to hear that, 30 years, and it's still a love story. And one of the regulars said that, that they were sweet, hardworking people, and she thought, the woman's name, Dawn Caviola, a regular, thought if everyone would buy a dozen donuts every morning, he could close early and go be with his wife. And that's what they've been doing. They have been closing. They've been getting him sold out before noon on a daily basis, so he can go spend the afternoon. John is 62, Stella's 63. She's doing better. She can talk, she can write, and she's now starting to eat something. And so I think that that's a great story. Again, usually at this point, I'd be introducing my guest, and they would be sharing the story with me. But we're still waiting to see if we can find out what happened with tonight's guest. But, you know, there's a couple of things about this story that I really like. And I'm hoping that this will not come out the wrong way. But what I do know is I'm going to say it the way I say it, and then you can choose to interpret it the way you want. One of the things that touched me about this story was that this was an Asian American. I can tell by the last name, and I can tell by the picture. And in a time when there seems to be so much us and them going out in the world, when there seems to be so much fighting going on in the world or trying to point fingers, that you see that people of color, and here we go. I may not be being politically correct. I actually don't do well at being politically correct because I'd rather be honest. But people of non-white descent and non-white, that they're getting the support from the community. They're just part of the community. And see, when people started immigrating to this country, which happened, just post-Columbus. So they've been immigrating to this country for 500-600 years. These people came to this country and it wasn't always smooth sailing. And they weren't always treated right. And they did end up being in villages, and they would get harassed by the other parts of the community. They'd be called names. And it happened to, yes, we all know that it happened to the Jewish people, but it happened to the Asians, and it happened to the Irish, and it happened to the Germans. And you know what? Whenever there was a mass migration coming in, there were always those people who seemed to forget that our country is a country that is mostly run by and owned by immigrants, because we're all immigrants. None of our nationalities started in this country. We all invaded. We all took over. We weren't even very nice about it. And yet, being Statue of Liberty, being at a time when we open the doors and we bring in, there's always an adjustment period. There's always a little bit of name calling, a little bit of separation. There's always a little bit of anxiety. But then each group, after 2-3 generations, they integrate. They become part of the community. They expand what the community has to offer in ideas, in culture, in history. They make us a rich culture. And there's no such thing as having too many of some kind of people. I think there's a lot of people that would tell you that there's too many white people in this country, in too many positions of power, that forget that whites weren't the original. They forget. Now, we do have to celebrate the fact that we had a couple of Native American women that got elected into Congress, and we had a couple of Muslim women that got elected. And I think that those are steps in the right direction. But I love this story because the community recognized one of its own. It showed up. It is participated in an act of kindness. And it's supporting somebody who can't be where he wants to be because he needs to keep on paying. He needs to keep on keeping that donut shop open and getting as much money as he can because we don't do health care for everybody in this country. And other countries make it work. They have some bumps. A couple of years ago, I was in England for 4 months. I heard my friends, and you know what? I was there with friends and clients and teaching and doing all sorts of stuff. And yeah, people grumbled that sometimes it took a long time to go see somebody and blah, blah, blah. And you could have a private insurance on top of the local insurance. But guess what? Their system worked. And nobody that was really sick didn't get care because they recognize that it is the community's responsibility to care for itself. And that means caring for each other. Not caring based on your skin color or the shape of the building you go into worship or the knee that you bend on or who you love or why you love, but that community is community and it takes care of itself. And so we have a beautiful here in Seal Beach, California, a beautiful small community, smaller community. I've never heard of Seal Beach, so I'm assuming that. I could be wrong. And a little picture of the donut shop, but that they showed up to take care of their own. They showed up and said, what can we do to help this man to be with his wife? And I think that that is what we have to focus on. I so often, I have a full-time practice as a spiritual coach, counselor, and catalyst. I work with clients, helping them in all sorts of ways as a medical intuitive. I'll help them resolve internal issues. I will help them, bring closure to, or find some peace with loved ones that have gone beyond. And some of what I do looks like a good old-fashioned traditional, therapy practice. That's what it might look like on the outside as a spiritual coach, counselor, and catalyst. So all of that happens. But I have the people that come in and they are searching for meaning, searching for truth, searching for answers, searching for why. What brought us to where we are today in this country? Why are we here? And even more so, what can we do and how can we get out? And one of the things that I tell them on a regular basis is that you can focus on the good stuff. Not wear rose-colored glasses, not pretend it's not happening. I had one of my clients say to me recently, so am I just supposed to pretend that this isn't going on? No, it's not about pretending that it's going on. It's looking it straight in the eye and say, I see you going on. Now what can I do? What can I do? And one of the things we can all do, and we're going to talk about this more in future segments, because I don't think that tonight's guest is coming in. I don't know what happened. She was very excited to be on the show. But she's not here right now. And again, on break, I may try to reach out and see if I can call her. But what I can say is that we need to share the good stories. We need to remember that down deep, so often we actually do show up for that member of the community. I still believe that we do that more often than not. And no, we don't pretend. We need to speak up. We need to act out in appropriate ways that are representation of our integrity and our value system. We don't need to engage in combat. We don't need to become violent. And that's another story we're going to cover when I get back. We don't have to do it that way, but we can respectfully question. We can take actions. We can do things. And we need to do them in a way where they don't win. They don't make us them. We don't become judgmental, hateful, bigoted, focused constantly on the negative. If we want to hear judgmental tripe, if we want to hear nothing but the negative and the bad most of the time, if we want to hear the judgment and the bias and the quick hit to try to suck your attention in, well, we can just go to media, because that's what the majority of the media does. I was actually just saying to somebody, I don't agree with, Trump's relentless attack on the press. And one of the reasons I don't agree with it, because he's not doing it to all of the press. If he treated them all equally, if he exposed that Fox was as biased and as loose with the truth sometimes as CNN or MSNBC or all the rest of them, that there are slime scum journalists on both sides of the aisle, and that America has got addicted to trying to feel like they're having some kind of vicarious life by living in these absurd, ludicrous representations of what's going on sometimes. I mean, I feel like we have become the epitome of the National Enquirer culture, where it has to be sensationalized and we have to be able to, if it doesn't raise our blood pressure and we don't get angry and we don't pound our fist, then it doesn't count. Is that what it takes to be alive today? Yeah, there is plenty of fake news. Plenty of it comes from the White House. But the White House is not the only source of fake news. Trump is not the only liar in Washington. Not by a long shot. But I think that we have become, we've given up oftentimes standing in our integrity and saying that it's not acceptable. Hey, we've got a little lazy sometimes. Just tell me what to think. Let me look. Do I have an elephant or a jackass on my chest? Because they're going to tell me what to think. They're going to tell me who to hate. There's a song, and I think I've mentioned it on the show before, that was written back in the 50s. You must be carefully taught. Rodgers and Hammerstein, South Pacific. You must be carefully taught to hate the same people that your mother and father hate. You must be carefully taught. Children are not born bigoted. Children are not born judgmental and hating. Okay? Children are born to be open and accepting to experiences. And yes, they all have personalities, and how they interact with those experiences shift and change. But children are not born hateful and judgmental. And, they're being carefully taught. They're being taught to just accept, to be roboticized, to bow at some altar with unquestioning agreement. And who's doing that? Well, certainly the parents are partially responsible. School systems, media, they all play a part. And we will be right back on the Dr. Kevin Show here on Om Times.
Conscious media for conscious minds. Om Times. Have you ever wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free today at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake.
Tune in to the Practical Intuitive, Mind, Body, Spirit for the Real World with me, host Robin Fritz, Mondays at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 Eastern. I'll cover personal and business intuition, animal communication, mediumship, space clearing, past life regression, shamanic insights, energy healing, soul choice, and more, all to help you tap your own intuitive and healing skills. No ifs, ands, or buts.
Hi, this is New Age Grammy winner Paul Avgerinos. Thanks for listening to Om Times Radio, and please support my peaceful healing music with a purchase at iTunes, Amazon, or wherever you shop for fine music. Just put my name into the search engine, Paul Avgerinos. A, V like Victor, G like George, E-R-I-N-O-S. You can also visit me at roundskymusic.com. Thanks for listening, and I'm wishing you the brightest of blessings.
To protect his home and family from disaster, Steve used courage, wisdom, and his camera phone.
That should do it.
Way to go, Steve! By simply taking digital pictures of his family's important documents, Steve can always have them stored safely online, no matter when disaster strikes. Learn other simple ways to protect your home and family before a natural disaster at ready.gov. That's ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
Hello, 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 and welcome back to the Dr. Kevin Show here on Ohm Times, where we're changing the world one ohm at a time. We are still trying to see if we can locate tonight's guest. Sorry about that, but we're going to continue to talk about a number of different things going on in the world today. You know, I try to bring in the first. I keep my eye for different stories that are going on and different things are happening, and people are, and so sometimes I'll start to look at a story, but I'll decide on another one. There's another story going on, and I'm going to share that. And it's kind of an interesting story, but I have to be honest, I decided to go with the story that I shared about the donut shop. So I didn't get all the way through the story. So I'm hoping not to misspeak at all. I'm going to share what I know of that particular story, because I usually only do one story per show. But it also happened in California, and it had to do with a teacher who had got into a fist fight, literally a fist fight, with a student. And this particular student, this particular teacher has been arrested, but the town has rallied around the teacher. They have rallied around the teacher, and they are, he's been raising money for his legal fees. And what I saw of it was that he's got some teacher support, he's got some parent support, he's got some local town support. The young man, and I don't know his age, and I can't find the story right now. Again, I had decided to go with the donut story, so I didn't mark or tag this one. But one of the things I found interesting is that they're saying that, you know, this was a man of color. It was a student who was yelling racial slurs at him, was egging him on, threw a basketball at him, that the student initially initiated the violence, and the teacher really just let him have it. So, you know, the question, so there's a couple of questions here, and you can find the story, I'm sure. I'm going to try not to find the story because then I get distracted. Then I kind of wander off in the middle and you go, why am I listening to the Dr. Kevin Show? Because he's clearly not here. And I don't want to give you that impression. Again, you know, we're just kind of waiting to see if tonight's guest will still call in, and if they don't, they don't. But I am kind of flying by the seat of my pants right now. And so one of the things about this particular story is that I don't agree with violence. Also, I don't agree that the kids should be allowed to get away with violence or initiate the violence without some pretty stringent consequences. And again, I'm not advocating that the teacher was all right. It does look, I started to watch a little bit of the video of it, but I didn't get a chance to watch the whole thing. You know, it looked like he really let him have it. He let him have it. This was unacceptable behavior. And so there is that question of how do we turn back, and I don't say this in a bad way, I don't want to sound like somebody who's living in the past, but how do we instill and more respect? I mean, we recently had this week, there was a young man that shot his mother because, or his grandmother because he was being punished for not doing his homework. There's something that's gone terribly wrong in this country. And, you know, I'm not going to jump on the bandwagon that some people have that this would all be made correct by school prayer. because I don't believe that that's the problem. I don't think that's the issue. And let's face it, giving people a moment of meditation time, leading them in a centering, quiet meditation, I might be able to get behind, that has no religious connotations. And if you are a religious person, you can use that meditation time to pray to whatever god or goddess you would like, or whatever higher entity. You can, say your Hail Marys to the new Doctor Who if you want, since it's a woman. Whatever is your private thing, but that it's a quiet moment of respectful silence, and trying to, give people a chance to come into being present in this day, and maybe with just a few focusing words that, again, can be non-denominational. And when I say non-denominational, I mean non-Christian. That it has to be something that fits for the Buddhist and the Hinduist and the pagan students and the Jewish students. It has to fit for all students. And we've had many conversations on this show, and we're likely to have more of that. We need to stop allowing people to rewrite history. We were not founded as a Christian nation. We simply were not. That does not hold out. It does not hold out with anybody who has studied history, anybody who has spent any time in becoming at all learned. It is fake news. There you go. There is fake news. We are a Christian nation. No, we're not a Christian nation. We didn't even have under God until the 1950s, when we were doing the McCarthy era. Let's be scared of everybody as a communist, which was a dark moment in this history of not acting up to the best of our ability to be true Americans. The McCarthy era was horribly abusive. And out of it came that, we needed to say one nation under God, because if you didn't, then McCarthy would come after you because you must be a red communist. Well, know what? Our Pledge of Allegiance for years never had under God. Wasn't there. We weren't founded as a Christian nation. If we want to have some blowhard talk about fake news, why doesn't he talk about that? Because that's true fake news. That's something that people keep on thinking if they say it often enough. But back to the original story, which is how do we get the teachers respected in the classroom? How do we get the kids respected in the, there was some other kid that shot their grandmother. So there's been 2 or 3 cases in the last 10 days. And I'm trying to bring more positive news in, and I'm trying to look for stories, more warm and fuzzy stories. And I'm sure that all of you are thinking, well, these stories aren't so warm and fuzzy, and I would agree. They're not the warm and fuzzy stories, but they're the stories that are fitting the conversation that I'm having with you right now. A conversation which you can choose to join at any point at 202-570-7057. That's 202-570-7057. But how do we bring, come, call, share. How do you bring more respect back into the classroom, generally into life? And, I am not somebody who says that we need to have absolutely no guns and we need to throw the Second Amendment out. Though, we certainly aren't calling people who are trying to throw some of the other amendments out that don't serve them well. But I do not think that anything in that amendment, prevented some, hoops to be jumped through. That there are some things that we should be saying and we should be looking at that could help. And I think that every time reasonable voices come out to try to at least structure the conversation about how we could make it a little more difficult for these kind of events to occur, that it all gets overridden by, I get the image sometimes of some of these people holding their hands on their ears going, la, 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 you're trying to steal all my guns. That's not what's happening. Nobody's said anything about stealing all your guns. But let's face it, we've got some pretty horrendous. We got the bar shooting. That just happened in California. Something has gone wrong with this country, and it's going to take some shifts and changes. So, again, if you want to come to facebook.com/MyDrKevin, see today's guest who's not here, but underneath, feel free to post something on today's show if you want to have me share it on air or get back to some of the things that you're listening to. But, we are getting sucker punched. We are getting sucker punched. And we are getting sucker punched into thinking that there are only black and white choices. I'm actually working on a new book. I'm actually working on 3 new books, but we all know I'm a little crazy. But I am working on a new book, and that new book, one of the chapters is about black and white and the fact that there is no black and white. Black and white don't exist. They are either the absence of color or they're all colors together. But black and white don't exist. And yet we get sucker punched into this black and white mentality because somebody is making money off of it. Somebody is benefiting by taking away our sense of reason, by taking away our sense of good critical thinking skills. We're not being allowed to ask reasonable questions without some megaphone shouting. And let me tell you, that megaphone is being paid for by somebody. It's being paid for by the pharmaceuticals. It's being paid for by the NRA. It's being paid for by the Federalist Society, a very scary organization that is trying to reshape this country to keep it in the control of what's going to be, in the next 10 years, the minority, which is the old white men. But they're doing everything they can. And then they're waving all the false banners around, trying to make this a Christian issue when you clearly don't have a Christian president who has not displayed at all Christian values. Hate is not a Christian value. Judgment is not a Christian value. Saying that you're going to gun down the poor and the needy is not a Christian value. Saying that you're going to let people starve or you're going to separate people at the border is not a Christian value. I invite anyone to come in and tell me how any of these policies that I'm referring to represent a Christian value. There is no Christian value. I'm not a Christian, but I recognize what is being professed as Christian values. And what I see is a big old hypocrisy statement. Because Christian values are about taking care of the poor, taking care of the needy. It's about taking care of the children. Those are Christian values. Love and acceptance and inclusion. You want somebody to love your God? Show them how lovable you are in the name of your God. Not how hateful, not how bigoted, not how judgmental. This is not Christian values. And like I said, I'm not a Christian. I wasn't raised a Christian. But I recognize what are Christian values as they are spoken, and I'm recognizing that these laws that you get behind and chant and do all your happy dances if they get passed and think it's fabulous, don't resemble a Christian value one whit. And yet you have every shyster, fundamental Christian scam artist supporting a president that is supporting anything but Christian values, with the exception of the abortion issue. I will put that out there. That's what they get. But you know what? You can't say, okay, well, there's a place where, his wanting to subjugate what women can do with their body to the decision of a bunch of old white men can be said it's in the name of a Christian value. But that's about it. Because none of the rest of this crap has been. At all. And so every time somebody tells me how Christian they are and how they support all of these other things, it kind of sort of makes me want to retch. it makes me kind of want to just like upchuck a little bit on their shoes. They're nice polished shoes that they're going to walk into church with and say, hey, God, I'm here. I love you. And I'm going to be hateful and judgmental and angry and bigoted to all of your other children that are down here. But I love you, God. And somebody upchucked on my shoes. Can you get me a rag? Really? Really? We have to call out the hypocrisy. The hypocrisy is rich in our media, in our politicians. It's in our churches, and we have to call it, and you have to see what it is. If a pastor is preaching unchristian support, issues that are unchristian support, then you should be calling your pastor on it. You should be letting that collection plate go by without putting any money in it. I'm not going to support you to punish the hungry and the needy and the poor and all the people that our idol, our Savior, our God, Jesus told us to take care of. I'm not going to support you to screw them over. And I'm not going to support you to support the person that's going to screw them over with all of these things. I would like any Christian to explain to me what kind of policies they think Jesus would have if he went into the White House. You think he would have that good health care should only be for the rich white few? Do you think that that's a principle that President Jesus would put it in? I'd like some of these professed hypocrites, and not all Christians are hypocrites. There are some lovely Christians, I know them, and they live a Christian life, and they would not support some of these laws and these bills and these attempts at veiled bigotry. They would never support them. And in fact, I know tons of Christians who don't support that. But I also know a whole bunch that have their fingers in the air going, la, 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 la. What pin is on my chest? And what does my preacher up at the top of the altar tell me? And I'm not supposed to question it. Well, I got news for you. You're supposed to question everything. If you can't stand up to questioning, then you need to question it even more. We will be back shortly here on the Dr. Kevin Show on Ohm Times Radio, where we're changing the world one ohm at a time.
The Real Conscious Connection. Ohm Times Radio. IOM FM. The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Hi, I'm Kelly Fox, host and astrologer of The Astrology Show. Each week, I'll give you access to the current transits, which are a valuable tool that provide astrological information to help unlock the potential each of us has. Understanding the stars can help steer us in the right direction to make better informed choices. So if you're wondering what's going to happen in your week ahead, be sure to tune in to The Astrology Show for guidance, Mondays at 9 p.m. Eastern Time.
Hi, this is recording artist and composer Yuval Ran, inviting you to a voyage through the chakras, a new double album of guided meditations to transform your life, a sublime musical medicine for nourishing inner peace and reaching to your higher virtues. Get it now at metamindfulnessmusic.com, METTA mindfulnessmusic.com.
911, what is your emergency?
My kid shot himself.
All right, where's the wounds?
911, what's your emergency?
Please help, my son shot his brother. 911, what is your emergency? Okay.
911, please state your emergency.
Every day, 8 kids and teens are unintentionally killed or injured by loaded and unlocked guns.
It wasn't locked.
Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and End Family Fire.
Hello, 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 and welcome back to the last segment of the Dr. Kevin Show here on Ohm Times, where we're changing the world one ohm at a time. And if you would like to be part of tonight's conversation, you can do so by calling 202-570-7057, or you can come to facebook.com/MyDrKevin. And you can like my page because I'm a likable guy, and you can comment as you would like. I have pinned to the top, actually, the show that we had last week, which is our monthly show with Matt Connerton. But feel free to post anything there because I'm keeping an eye on. I deleted the post for tonight's show since tonight's guest did not show up. So you can still comment. You can still post if you're listening to this show and you would like to weigh in. We are talking about the difference between what you say you believe and the actions you take and who you support. Because one of the actions you take is who you support. And if you support people that are engaging in primarily non-Christian actions, then what does it say about your Christianity if that's how you self-identify? That's my question out to my audience right now. Again, 202-570-7057. How can you support being a Christian when you are talking about not taking care of the poor, when you're talking about separating families at the border, when you're talking about that supporting things that make the healthcare industry wealthier and the pharmaceuticals wealthier, and people who don't need to die because they can't afford the drugs or they can't afford the healthcare. If we elected Jesus tomorrow as president, how many of the things that you're so excited that the current president is doing would he immediately strike down, hopefully with a thunderbolt? I'm just tired of the hypocrisy. I'm tired that you can use your religion to judge my lifestyle, my thoughts, the fact that I don't join your religion, that you can use it to judge all sorts of things and then hide behind it as being non-judgmental. It's part of your religion. Your religion is determined by your actions and not what you say. Don't make poor Jesus roll over in his grave. And I'm sure some of you just went, "Oh, did you know he resurrected? There was no grave." Just a little informational fact, as I am actually teaching a class at my church right now, because yes, I do go to church, and it doesn't burst into flames when I walk in the door, believe it or not. I'm Unitarian Universalist, so that probably would make sense to some of you out there that know what it is. That St. Mark, who actually wrote the earliest version of the New Testament, or a chapter in the New Testament that wrote about the resurrection, didn't write about the resurrection. In fact, when the apostles were still alive, what he wrote did not have anything about Jesus coming back and Jesus resurrecting and coming back and saying that. That was added in 100 years after St. Mark was died and all the apostles were gone. That was added by the church. Your original New Testament book of St. Mark didn't have anything about a resurrection in it. So you might want to contemplate that next time you get on your high horse about your resurrection and how he's going to come and save you and save us all. And he's going to bring you such great delight by smoting the rest of us and striking us down. It's really kind of passé to have an angry and judgmental God. But if that's what you need, that's what you need. But don't push him on me. Don't ram him down my throat. And don't expect me not to call you a hypocrite when you support things that this man that is your Savior and your Lord God has told you not to do, or that is in direct opposition to what he told you to do. Jesus would stand at the borders and welcome all the immigrants in. He would tell them to come, that there would be food for them, that they would be helped. He would go and he would make sure that all the sick were getting care, that it wasn't a bottom line decision of who was writing a big check to somebody sitting in Washington, D.C. That's not how he would operate. He would talk about a covenant of love and acceptance. He would talk about helping your fellow man and judge not, yet ye be judged. this is what he would talk about. So when you get all excited about us becoming a hateful, bigoted, torn, split company, please don't talk to me about your Christianity. I can't take the hypocrisy. So moving right along, here at our last segment, as I've said, I've been a spiritual coach, counselor, and catalyst for almost 29 years now. And I help people become more of who they're here to be. And whether that's through my medical intuitive or my mediumship, my psychic, my spiritual coaching, counseling, catalyst, the skills and talents that I've had for years and years. And, I have a lot of people right now. I have a fair amount of people that I work with that are trying to deal with the traumatization of what's happening to America. I did a show when our bully in chief first got elected called Surviving the Trump Presidency. You can still find it on my Web of Light YouTube channel. But, as I talk to these people, I'm going to share with you now what I share with them, which is you have to get up every day and be aware of what's happening and give yourself a few minutes of outrage, but give it yourself only a few minutes of outrage. Take all of that outrage energy and turn it into some action, some productive action. Not yelling and screaming and posting profanities, not getting violent, not digging in and becoming part of the problem, which is the separation, the us and them. Take a few minutes and try to figure out, what are them thinking? And where are them and I alike? And then what can I do if I'm really opposed to something that's happening or going through? Can I sign a petition? Can I start a petition? Can I post something to make people think that maybe if I wake up some of the apathetic, or I wake up some of the people that are asleep at the wheel that think that some of what's going on in this country is really okay, maybe if I wake them up. Now, some people are going to say that I'm being full of myself and arrogant, and please feel free to say that. Please feel free to post it on my Facebook page. Just make sure you like me when you're here. Because I welcome all opinions as long as they're respectful. And this is what I can tell you, that Washington cannot be saved. We cannot fix Washington. Washington is unfixable. Because Washington is more illusion than reality in many, many ways. What we can fix is everything at the state level, where your voice can be heard, your actions can have meaning, where you can run for an office, or you can find somebody who really has your values and support them to run, not vote blind. You can decide on the issues that are important, and you can hold your senators and representatives' feet to the fire if they want to go back to Washington, if they sell out onto you the last time. You can keep track. There are plenty of websites out there. There's plenty of ways to find the information of what were the votes. You can talk about the laws that you would like to get passed or the things you'd like to see happen. I'm all about automatic voter registration. Why don't we have it everywhere? Why isn't anybody who is in our system that has to show all of that, what they have to show to get a driver's license or sign up for services or do something? If you show that you have what it takes to get all of those things, then why can't you automatically be voter registered? Why are there additional hoops? Why do they make it difficult? Because the people that it makes it most difficult for tend to vote for the people who are not in power, at least in this moment. So how can we do that? How can you get your state to have automatic voter registration? There are, I think, 13 states out there that have it. What happens when we get 30 states that have it? And those 30 senators, those senators from those 30 states and those House of Representatives from those 30 states, that in order for them to get reelected, promise to bring up certain things that are important, that can change the face. Get the money out of politics. It shouldn't be there. The money is the corrupting influence. Now, I don't say money is bad. And most people, going back to our earlier references to Christianity and the Bible misquote it, that, money is the root of all evil. No, that's not what it says. It says the love of money is the root of all evil. And if you don't think that a majority of what broke down Washington was the love of money and power, then you haven't been paying attention. You've just phased out. That's why they fight so hard, to get the most money, to get the most power, to get the biggest lobbyist checks in all sorts of ways. I see these posts of, oh, well, at least we kept the Senate. It's such a shame we lost the House. Why? Because there's accountability? Shouldn't there be accountability? Shouldn't accountability be desirable to everybody? That everybody looks and says, if there are constitutional laws being broken, then shouldn't the American people want to know about it? If money is being made privately by Trump organizations because of these hotels whose income has gone way up since he's been president, because foreign countries are buying rooms and hoping to curry favor and are staying there at ridiculous rates. What are we, back in Tammany Hall? Really? If your guy doesn't do anything wrong, you should welcome accountability, because that's what accountability is going to prove, that he did nothing wrong. But he won't fess up. He won't be transparent. So again, you work at the state level. Rank and choice voting, clean elections, transparency. There are a number of things. There's a wonderful book I'm reading called Daring Democracy. I'm actually doing a class on it at my church about the ways that we could still put the government back more in the hands of the people. Make it so that we aren't third or fourth on the list of the consideration. Get rid of the Electoral College, or modify it in a way that it isn't just 4 or 5 states that decide who's going to be president. That's never how the system was supposed to work. It is supposed to be a representation. When you have the popular vote not be choosing the president, something is wrong. The system is broken. Systems have to be upgraded. If you still owned your original computer you ever bought, and it had your original software, and it had your original hard drive, and it had your original operating program, and then you tried to put your social media platforms on it, the poor thing would probably be smoking. It would probably blow up in your face and hop out the window if you're over the age of 25 or 30. Okay? Systems need to be updated. They need to reflect the times. You need to see what was the spirit of the law and what was the intention. And is that intention being met by a system that no longer is applicable in the 21st century? Everything from the Electoral College to submachine guns? Really? It's okay for them to be on the streets? For why? Oh, and the criminals will have them. Well, but then we can get rid of the criminals for having them because they're illegal. So, hey, that worked in our favor, doesn't it? Ask better questions. Get involved in the state level. Question more. And don't vote straight ticket. Ask your questions. Reach out. Most politicians have Facebook pages now. They run some version of a town hall unless they're running away from a current disaster that their party has befallen. But they should. Maybe we should make that mandatory. Maybe they need to have mandatory open meetings where the people of the state that elected them actually gets to talk to them, not just the ones that voted for them. There was a story, and I can't remember which senator it was, but there was a story of somebody who went and wanted to talk to his senator, and the senator asked how much, if this person had contributed to their campaign. And when the person said no, they said, well, I don't have time to talk to you. Really? Really? We tolerate that? We allow a senator to be the senator of only the people that write the big checks? Because then most of Americans are screwed, because most Americans don't write big checks. Most Americans can't afford to write big checks. Because even though our economy is better, quote unquote, it depends, you don't look at it too close. And we are still behind we are making less comparatively than we were 20 or 30 years ago based on the cost of living. We have the widest separation between the wealthy and the poor that we've ever had. And so as long as we have rigged systems, as long as we try to fix Washington and figure out Washington can't be fixed, what we need to fix is our attention to detail and our commitment to send the people to Washington so we have a different Washington. That's not fixing Washington. That's overhauling it. That's overthrowing it by putting people in who, as I'm sure many of you have heard, why don't all the congressmen and the president just wear jackets with stickers on them by their biggest donors so we know who owns them, just like race car drivers that have patches on it. But when my clients come to me and say, I feel powerless, I say, well, then take your power back. Take an action. What can you do? Make a difference. And that's it for this week's Dr. Kevin Show. Have a great week. Namaste.